Hi, Internet friends. It's Sarah Joy here. I wanted to give an update on the progress I made working on Impulse Buy since my last live stream. I ended the live stream thinking through the workflow for adding answers and questions to new items, and I finally got that working. So I wanted to walk through how I did that. As a refresher, what I'm talking about is when we add a new item, let's say a new dog toy. When it takes you to the form, it gives you the options of setting the status, the want level, tags, and then there are these questions that are meant to help us stop feeling that impulse to buy this thing. So how would buying this thing improve my life? Make my dog happy? Is now the right time to buy? You don't have to answer them all. Just answer whatever you want to, whatever feels right in the moment. And then you can save it, and it'll show them, and then you can go in and edit them as well. So yeah, that's the flow that I figured out. And before we dive into all of the actions and everything, let's head over to Supabase so I can walk through the relevant tables. So the tables that are relevant here are this questions table, which is where the text for the questions lives. We have this user questions table, which is where a user's active questions are stored, and the order that they'll be presented and the order that they should show up in is also stored. And the reason for the existence of this table is that I eventually want people to be able to either add their own custom questions or select from like a predetermined list of which questions they want to use. So depending on like what questions are active in that moment, this table will be updated. And then we also have this answers table. And this answers table is where the answers are stored. It has its own ID, it has the text, and then it also has these two foreign keys to the item and the question. And then it also has the order as well for it to show up in the app. And then finally, we have this Postgres view called item QAS for question answers, and it just combines the answers table and the questions table so that we have both the answer text and the question text. And this is really the table that I'm pulling from, or rather the view that I'm pulling from when we're displaying the answers in the item detail page. I think the table setup is a little different from what it was when I was streaming. I had another table called items questions, and that was pretty much just these two columns connecting the items and the questions, but I realized that an answer will only ever be for one item as well as only for one question. So it made sense to me to just keep them both here on this table. I'd be super curious if someone who has a lot of experience with database schemas has any thoughts on this. I would love to know. But yeah, so that's our schema. And so now let's walk through the actions that I set up to do this. So it starts when we add a new item. And when we add a new item, what we're doing is we're looping through the questions from that user's questions table. And as a reminder, it has a question ID and an order number. And as we loop through it, we're creating a new row in that answers table with the question ID, the order number, and then also the item ID, which we have because we just made a new item up here. So yeah, whenever a new item is added, it creates rows in that answers table for that item. And then when it comes to the item detail form, we have this list view that is looping over the item question answers view and outputting them as components. And we're passing them this parameter of the row. As a reminder of what that table looks like, it's this view that has answer ID, question ID, the question text, answer text, an item ID, and the order for the questions to show up in. And so when we go into this component, we're passing it all of that data, and so it's showing the question text and the answer text. And the next action that we have is here. So when a user inputs text into this text field, that's what this is, we have this action here on change, and what it's doing is updating an app state list called updated answers. And updated answers is a list of the answers that need to be updated. And I'm doing it this way so that I don't have to go through, so that it's only updating answers that have changed. And what we're saving in updated answers, the list, is JSON with the answer ID and the answer text. So then, finally, when we save, we've got one more action, which is that we loop through that updated answers list and we update the relevant row in our answers table, and we set the text. So yeah, that's how I set up that flow. An alternative way I could have done it that I thought about doing it was in this action on the on change, you can actually just update the Supabase row from here, but I have that save button on that form, and it doesn't make sense to me that the answers would update without hitting that save button, because otherwise, like if you go to change something, if you go to update the answer and then change your mind and hit the back button instead of save, you would expect to not see those changes saved. So that's why I did it this way, where I added it to this app state list instead of updating directly from this on change event. I'm pretty happy with how I implemented this workflow. I'm super curious if anyone has any feedback, or I'd love to know if you would have approached this differently, or if there are things or considerations that I am not thinking of. One thing I do need to address is that this Postgres view is not secure right now. I learned that for your views, you can add this bit of code that will make your views secure and make them follow your row level security rules. But for some reason with this view, adding this in breaks my view. So it's off right now. I have to figure that out. And when I do, I'll post another update video. Okay, so that has been my workflow for adding questions and answers to these new items and saving them to our Supabase database. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, or any feedback on the way I did this. I would love to hear it. Oh, also, I'm live streaming working on this app for the next 4 weeks over on my other channel. But right now my thought is to create these like update videos after the live streams, and I'll put them here on this channel. And I'm thinking I might continue live streaming or uploading like work session videos of just screen recordings and talking after these next 4 weeks, and I'll probably do that here on this channel. So if you are building a FlutterFlow app or want to watch someone do that, consider subscribing. And thanks for watching.